Hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. It's me, Eddie. And I think that might be a good intro going forward. I might stick with that one. It's simple, it's easy, has my name in it. Why not, right? I'm sorry if I look grotesque. I needed sleep. I didn't get a lot of sleep. And so I slept in a little bit. And I didn't really make myself beautiful today. So apologies. I'm working with a bare minimum right now. But it's okay. We're not doing much, anything too crazy today. I think today's gonna be a chill morning. Oh, let me just get my streams up in the background before I start going off. It should be a pretty chill morning. We're for the most part just going to react to some videos. We're gonna start with some lighthearted, fun stuff, and then maybe towards the halfway point, switch into some maybe some interesting political stuff that might come up. We'll see what happens. I wanted, you know, I did see I do have one video that's like an hour and a half that I wanted to look through. I saw like the first 5 minutes of it, and I'm like, okay, this could be something I can react to, but we'll come back to that later. And it was a little bit of like a debate type thing, but uh, I don't think we're trying to set anyone off today. If anyone pops in, we're just gonna, chat about stuff, have a good time. This is gonna be an off gaming week, and we're gonna try to keep that this way. So, like 3 weeks a month, we're gonna do gaming content, and then 1 week, we're gonna do like React content. And I think that's gonna be a good formula for us going forward. So, what do we want to get into today? What is Gnormia? I don't think so. Aiden, subscribe. Oh, is this? Oh, this is about everything. I thought this was just, for a second, I thought this was just about YouTube. Do you guys want to watch a video about worms? I don't want to watch that. I want to watch this too, but we could save that for later because I know Asmon's a bit controversial. Bannerlord update? I'm maybe gonna watch this too. Ooh. This is all later, by the way. We're gonna probably step into this later. One cop and 20. That looks interesting. This too. Hang on. Watch later. I definitely want to see that. It's all going to collapse, but not the way they're telling you. Watch later. I want to watch this stuff, but we want to start a little bit lighthearted today, right? We don't want to get into anything too crazy at the start of the stream, right? Gen Z scumbag. That could be a good start. We'll come back to that. All right, for sure. I think we're gonna start with worms, just because. How can you go wrong with worms? Also, that'll remind me. We'll probably stop by Ant Canada later. I haven't checked on his videos in a minute. Like seriously though.
The humble worm may be one of the most overlooked characters in the entire game. Though they may seem powerless and pathetic, in reality the worm faction has access to some of the rarest, most extraordinary special abilities in the game, and can be a nightmare to play against.
Pardon me. What the fuck is that? What just happened?
The rarest, most extraordinary.
What is it doing? Huh?
Ordinary special abilities in the game.
It looks like a spinal, like a nervous system. Is that its nervous system? Or is it just like tendrils or what is that? Huh? I hope they come back to this
Game, and can be a nightmare to play against. But which worm builds are dominating the meta, and which are just bait? Find out in the worm tier list.
That one got.
But before we dive into the rankings, what even is a worm? Even though they're the most numerous creatures in the game.
Nah. Really? mean, there's a lot of stuff in the ocean that probably classifies as a worm that we just don't realize, right? Like anemones and shit like that. I bet you that's a worm of some kind. I don't know. If you told me an anemone was a worm, I'd believe you. Or if it was classified as one, I bet you more stuff is probably just classified as a worm than you don't realize, you know.
Game, technically there's no such thing as a single all-encompassing worm faction. Worm builds are actually part of several different, distantly related factions, but there are many similarities they share. All worms have long, tube-shaped
What is that in the top right? Because it looks like something out of an alien movie. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like if you made that 100 times the size, that's like the sandworm from Dune, except on a jungle planet, and that's even scarier. What's bottom right?
character models
Oh, it's just the
with
fin.
minimal or non-existent appendages,
The one on the bottom left has a funny looking head. You see that? It's kind of like a hammerhead shark.
enabling them to weave in and out of tight spaces easily. Simple as it may be, this has proven to be one of the most reliable body plans in the history of the game, as worms have been in the game since pretty much patch 1.0. As far as base stats go, worms are not
Okay, not very smart, not strong, not very defensive, not very mobile, although HP, stealth, yeah, I guess makes sense. Alright.
particularly stacked. Now, credit where it's due, because of their excellent regenerative perks and uniquely advanced burrowing abilities, they do score pretty high in both vitality and stealth.
I have heard with like most worms, like cockroaches and stuff, but like mostly with worms, you can like cut it in half and it'll probably grow into two separate beings. I think I've heard that a couple of times.
And there are exceptions that score high in other stats as well, but in general they have below average base stats in almost every skill. With simple brains, no weapons, no armor, and no legs, the average worm is pretty lacking in their intelligence, power, defense, and mobility stats.
That worm was getting cooked by these ants. It was just.
That's in almost every
It was
skill.
only like two,
With
three
simple
ants.
brains, no weapons, no
They're black. They're big black.
armor,
By the
and
way, but
no legs, the average worm is pretty
this worm is getting cooked. This worm is getting absolutely obliterated.
lacking. So without further ado, let's dig into the tier list. First in F tier, the Ice Worm. This build takes the burrowing capabilities of the worm in an unconventional direction, and opts to dig through glaciers rather than solid earth. This is a pretty unique gimmick as it grants them completely uncontested access to glacial algae as a food source.
I mean, they don't really have organs, I don't think. But I would have imagined worms to be a lot more cold-blooded, and like need like the heat from like sun or something like that. To me, I didn't think they would be able to like be in a glacier, unless this is just this worm.
But unfortunately, it seems like unlocking the ability to burrow through ice must have cost all their evolution points, because the Ice Worm has some pretty glaring flaws in its strategy. First, the Ice Worm's stealth stat is abysmal. Its jet black appearance offers zero camouflage against the icy white surrounding.
I bet you being jet black has to do with the fact that it needs to retain heat from outside. So I might be right on my theory at least a little bit.
Making them extremely easy for birds to spot from above and pick off. A few extra points into snow camouflage would go a long way here. And the second flaw, ice worms ironically have almost zero freezing resistance or heat resistance.
Bruh.
They die immediately if temperatures drop below freezing, and melt if temperatures rise to even a few degrees above freezing. Luckily, due to a quirk of the game's physics engine, the temperature of glacial ice is fairly stable at their exact Goldilocks zone. But
TLDR, when things are in the process of melting, freezing, their temperature remains constant. The surface of a glacier is essentially always slightly melting, so the ice is almost always 32 degrees Fahrenheit freezing temperature, even though the air temperature varies wildly from day to day. Does that mean the surface itself is always constant, or it has to be deeper within the ice? The worms were on the surface of the. I think they mean the surface, which is weird because you'd imagine. Well, no, I guess with the way heat convection works, as soon as like the surface starts getting heated up, the coldness from like the deeper ice would like start to. So I suppose in a weird scientific way, I don't know enough about science, but it makes kind of sense to me. If that kind of helped anyone.
Temperature of glacial ice is fairly stable at their exact Goldilocks zone. But as we've seen lately, relying on glaciers as a stable habitat is quite the gamble. It wouldn't take too much to make this build completely broken, but for now, it's the lowest ranked worm on this list. Also in F tier, we have the earthworm. Yes, it's true, the archetypal worm everyone knows and loves is a low tier. Earthworms have terrible stats. It has no offensive moves, no armor, and isn't quick enough to rely on speed to escape attack.
I live in an area that's like an archipelago, so that means on three sides of the landmass, it's surrounded by water. So it's kind of hard for like earthworms to get on there, but they crawl out when it gets humid enough onto like the lawns and stuff like that. And more often than not, they will just end up in the middle of the fucking sidewalk, getting either like picked apart by a bird or just getting stepped on. So like, yeah, I see earthworm. Even though you don't expect to see a lot of them on the landmass that I'm on, you're always just seeing dead ones everywhere. Especially whenever you see one, it's just dead. So earthworm's the most common and also probably the most crap. I believe that.
What's worse, even the one special ability earthworms are believed to have is a bit overrated. Earthworms, like most worms, can regenerate from damage and potentially even survive grievous wounds, if they manage to get away. But that's a big if. Most builds that spec into high passive health regen also tend to spec into the autotomy perk as well. This perk allows the user's appendages to break off if grabbed, allowing them to escape a grappling attack. This is a costly ability and one that I normally don't speak very highly of, but situationally it can be extremely clutch. Earthworms do not have this perk, and so when attacked, they often cannot do anything except tank the damage and try to burrow away. If that doesn't work, they're completely out of options.
That explains it. You really can't do much other than just try to get away, like into the ground. And any animal that regularly makes a snack of worms is gonna know that. So just keep it away from getting in the ground. And that's easier said than that's easy, just as easy said as done, honestly. So cooked. Now leech is interesting. I didn't expect leech to be a kind of worm, but it's one of those where yeah, if you tell me, I'll believe it.
In D tier, we have the Leech. As the literal namesake for the term used to describe deliberately being carried by the rest of your team, I actually think leeches are done a bit dirty. Yes, many leech players do fit the description, attacking a player in a higher weight class and just coasting off the free XP. But there are plenty of leech players who play an honest, active hunting strategy and have to fight to survive, same as any other predatory build. Like most other aquatic builds, they thrive off of their strong matchup against low tiers like frogs, and spawn camp them mercilessly.
For a second, I thought all the black things were leeches, but these are clearly tadpoles. So the thing in the middle is the leech. That's a big ass leech. He's just gulping down tadpoles. He's not sucking on them. He's just. My cat didn't like that.
Leeches share the same garbage base stats as most other worms though, and with lackluster defenses and mobility, they still get one-shot by fish, birds, and snakes all the time. Frankly, the parasite strategy might actually be the less viable of the two, as leeches are not well protected at all when attached to a host, and can easily get picked off by perceptive players. In C tier, we have the horsehair worm.
He's just a little noodle. He's just a thin little noodle guy. A little noodle boy. Look at the noodle.
This nematode takes the burrowing proficiency of the worm faction and uses it for an unorthodox purpose, burrowing into flesh. Horsehair worm players opt for the parasitoid game plan, infecting their hosts when they drink from contaminated water.
Infected.
It then uses its burrowing ability to pierce the digestive tract and hide out in the Players opt for the parasitoid game plan, infecting their hosts when they drink from contaminated water.
Infected.
It then uses its burrowing ability to pierce the digestive tract and hide out in the insect's circulatory system, leeching XP from it as it continues its playthrough relatively unimpeded. But once the worm reaches its max level, it activates its special ability Mind Control to change the insect's quest objective marker to the nearest body of water.
I'm gonna leech your food. You're not gonna know I'm here. And then I'm gonna connect to your brain and make you drown yourself. That's pretty smart. I'm not gonna lie. This is okay, so we're officially reaching the point, the tier of worms where there's a game plan. Like it's not just, oh shit, I might be dead now. Like this is a killer worm because this is an actual problem for humans, I think too. Maybe not as on big a scale because they're tiny, but I feel like this is one of those things I heard where you can't drink water out of certain places that don't have filtered water because the risk for like these things can seriously mess you up. I think. Don't quote me on that, but I feel like I've heard that somewhere. Yeah, this is where it starts getting real, boys.
Once the insect player self-destructs, the worm burrows out of its body and continues with the rest of its playthrough. This strategy is incredibly effective and requires
Those are some long boys. Those are some long boys. They've been in the game a minute. I take back what I said. That look lethal. You can't drink that water. You're gonna die. You're gonna die.
very little technical skill, as once you successfully infect a host, you can farm XP entirely AFK. Mind Control is one of the most powerful abilities in the game, and it's shocking the devs gave it to a random worm build. Still, as with any parasitoid playstyle, the main downside is that your survival is tied to that of your host, so if you pick a scrub, you might get one-shot when they accidentally wander too close to a spider's den. And this isn't just a hypothetical. In fact, in some servers, the fish a spider's den. And this is
Accounted for 60% annual energy intake of the trout population. In Japanese headwater, steam, camel, crickets, grasshoppers are 20 times more likely to enter a stream if infected by a nematomorph. I should have been paying attention to this parasite. Corroborating evidence. So the worms get into the grasshoppers and the crickets, and then they make them jump into the water, and then the fish comes by and eats eats the grasshopper and the cricket before the worm gets to get out. Yeah, that sounds right. That sounds like bad RNG, honestly.
isn't just a hypothetical. In fact, in some servers, the fish player base is literally reliant on janitoring the self-destructing players. Still, at least by being an internal parasite, they don't run the risk of being picked off like the leech does.
This is the alien. This is... Alright, let's see.
In B tier, we have the Fireworm, a marine build with excellent defensive stats. Fireworm
That's in the water? I thought that was in the jungle, on a tree. Oh.
have toxic spines, which inflict serious damage on any player dumb enough to attack them. This effect is powerful enough that even large tank builds cannot just eat the damage, and will learn quickly not to mess
Yo, Turtle got mad. He ate the spicy chili. He fucking slapped. He was like, yo, I'm tired of you. Get out of here. That was the worst snack I've ever had. He was mad.
with them. Unfortunately for Fireworm mains, because their spikes are small and fragile, they cannot pierce thick chitin or keratin armor. This means any player with a thick exoskeleton can completely negate the Fireworm's defense, and crush them like they would any other worm. Some fish mains have also spec'd into the beak attribute in order to be able to do the same thing. Parrotfish and pufferfish are a huge problem for builds that rely on defensive abilities, as their powerful beaks can crush armor and don't take damage from poison spikes.
Well, that first fish didn't look like it had a beak. It was just pecking away at these spikes, but yeah, the peck, that makes sense. This is crazy.
So, fireworms are untouchable to a lot of players, but there's enough counterplay prevalent in the meta right now that I can't give them a high tier rank.
Is this a CN enemy? Is this what I thought? If I'm right, I'm gonna be happy.
Also in B tier, we have the Tube Worm. Of all the lazy AFK XP farming builds in the game, there isn't a single one that goes to as extreme of lengths to do so as the Tube Worm. The Tube Worm has crazy high toxic damage resistance. Not because it needs to tank venom damage, not because it preys upon builds that use poison for defense. No, the Tube Worm needs toxic damage resistance because its strategy is to set up shop next to deep sea hydrothermal vents and basically eat the sulfur jetting out from them. It absorbs hydrogen sulfide using its plume, and because of a special team-up ability they have with bacteria, they're actually able to use that as an XP source, meaning they don't even need to really eat at all. They don't need to find food, they just constantly absorb the noxious sulfur spewing out of these vents. Because the sulfide turns water around these vents toxic, the Tube Worm doesn't have to worry about attacks from predators. They do, however, have to worry about the vents shutting down. Hydrothermal vents do not last forever, and when they go dark, or erupt into lava flows, it's GG for entire colonies of Tube Worms. An incredible
They're just campers. They just get in their little campy spot and they camp with their little sniper rifle, roasting marshmallows. They don't even really get to fire the damn thing because nothing comes by. They're that one scene from Battlefield Friends where he's like, I got a good sight, and he's like in the corner of the map where they're like, nobody's gonna go over there. He's like, nah, I can see everything from here. Yeah, he's just off in a corner, man. He's just roasting marshmallows in the lobby, taking up space while the rest of us are trying to get our battle royale, our chicken dinner. He's just sitting there in the corner, like, I'm here, guys. Don't mind me though. I'm not gonna be playing much. Just gonna be watching YouTube compilations of my favorite VTuber e-girl, trying to collect some XP in the background. You know what I mean? I got to level 150 without shooting a single bullet. How you like them apples?
incredibly effective XP farming technique, but like a lot of these types of strats, it works until it doesn't. In A tier, we have the Velvet Worm. This build has even worse defensive stats than the other worms, as it doesn't have the same slime coating that the others do. However, it makes up for it by converting that slime ability into one of the most unique abilities in the game, a projectile attack. The Velvet Worm can fire a glue-like slime from its papillae. This slime
Yo. He was just firing it off. It was like pew 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 pew
Slime attack deals no damage, it's not toxic, and doesn't hit with near enough force to be threatening on its own.
pew. Is this string shot from Pokemon? Is this what the Caterpie and the Weedles are doing? Is this what it was based off of? Slow your speed a little bit, give you a little goo, little web, little silk string.
However, the slime is sticky and hardens quickly, debuffing the target's speed stat and potentially even completely immobilizing it. This slime is extremely strong once hardened, similar to Spider Silk in terms of what it's capable of immobilizing. Even builds with vastly higher power stats are not safe from being essentially frozen by the Velvet Worm.
That's a Heraclaw, a Herica, Herica, the beetle Pokemon, the strong one. That's him. Even he can't stand up to the goo. It's officially the goo now, by the way. That's the worm goo. Even the Herka, Haka, Kiba, Hakashigi. You can't fight the goo, man. You can't.
Attacks. Now, while this is no doubt a powerful ability,
Looks restrained, status condition, 40% cooldown. He's going. I love this actually. This is just good. Oh, and you have a high perception stat for some reason? like how the stats are evening out, by the way. This is well thought out. Chef's kiss.
It has plenty of limitations. It is woefully inaccurate and will struggle to hit smaller or evasive targets consistently. It is also relatively short-ranged, only being able to hit targets a few body lengths away. And because it doesn't deal any direct damage, even if the Velvet Worm manages to pin down a build like the Centipede or Scorpion, it'll still be taking on considerable counterattack risk when it tries to approach.
More of an escape tool than anything else.
And last in
Okay, this again, one of those things that I wouldn't have thought was a worm, but if you told me, I'd be like, yeah. And yeah, this thing is absolutely lethal. I think I've heard of these before.
A tier, we have the Bobbit Worm. This build is easily one of the most terrifying things, not just in the Worm faction, but in the entire game. The Bobbit Worm is a mid-sized benthic worm build which can burrow up to 10 feet deep into the ocean floor. However, unlike most burrowing worm builds, the Bobbit Worm
up to 10 feet deep, meaning this thing is over 10 feet long.
10 feet deep into the ocean floor. However, unlike most burrowing worm builds, the Bobbit Worm is not a scavenger. It's not burrowing to look for food scraps or to escape predators. No, the Bobbit Worm is an ambush build. It lies in wait, and as soon as another player wanders close enough to its burrow, it strikes, using what may genuinely be the most wicked pair of mandibles in the entire game. These powerful jaws.
That fish hit the flash step real quick. It was there and then it wasn't.
Inflict devastating damage, while simultaneously hooking into their target so that it can be dragged down below the ocean floor, never to be seen again. Now, despite their ferocity, I don't want to overhype the Bobbit Worm. Though they are menacing, skilled players can play around their threat range pretty easily. Their low perception
So only just barely above 10 feet long, basically.
stats make them pretty inaccurate when lunging towards their targets. Their attacks are deceptively slow, and as long as you position yourself even slightly above the seabed, they should be reactable and easily dodged. Skilled fish players have even been known to drive Bobbit Worm players out of their territory by teaming up and mobbing their burrows. This requires a successful perception check with a pretty high DC, but if your party is competent enough, you really shouldn't have to worry about Bobbit Worms that much. Despite being easily the most terrifying build on this list, the Bobbit Worm's poor frame data and predictable game plan keeps it out of the higher tiers.
Two things. One, respectable. I mean, I thought the Bobbit would have been a little more lethal, but the way he described it, yeah, it's just a worm, really. I was not expecting this one to be higher up in the list. Let's see what this is about. This is what the hell? By the way, I love that I called out Hammerhead. I said it looked like a hammerhead shark. That's what it's called. I didn't know that. I didn't pre-watch this, I swear.
And in S tier, we have the Hammerhead Flatworm. Flatworms are the solo hunters of the Worm faction, and the Hammerhead Flatworm is one of the best.
He just gulping that snail. He yum. He's slurping that snail.
They're faster than other worms, which isn't saying a lot, but still, it's relevant. They possess a devastatingly powerful neurotoxic slime, the same toxin found in pufferfish and
Is that ant already dead?
blue-ringed octopus, which they employ both offensively and defensively.
It's cooked.
But their most recognizable feature, their wide, flat head, was a bit of a gamble in terms of how they spent their evolution points. By speccing into the Hammerhead attribute, these flatworms sacrificed their ability to dig efficiently. But in doing so, they greatly boosted their perception stat. Similar to the Hammerhead shark, the flatworm's hammerhead is loaded with chemoreceptors, enabling the worm to track down prey by following its scent. In addition to their toxic defense, flatworms are the best regenerators in the game, able to heal all the way back to full health even when cut into tiny pieces. They can really only be permanently defeated by non-physical damage, such as dehydration, salt, acid, that sort of thing. Because it's borderline unkillable through conventional combat, the Hammerhead Flatworm is the only worm build to achieve the rank of S tier. The Hammerhead Flatworm's excellent tracking abilities ensure that even without eyes, it knows exactly where it's going. And even though I do have eyes, to be totally honest, sometimes I still get lost while exploring the internet.
I just want to point out that the one thing that worms are really known for, burrowing underground, is the one thing that the best one doesn't do. Is burrow underground. That's just a hunter worm. And he'd just be hunting. And I think that's funny, honestly. It's like the meta doesn't define the species, yo. You can rise above the meta. Just don't play that way. And who knows, you could be a god tier gamer. You never know, bro. Dude, rise above the meta. That's it.
Or at least I used to, until I started using today's sponsor, Opera. Opera is my new tool and means I don't have to manually sift through all of my open tabs to find out where I just came from. And thanks to Tab Islands, I can group my tabs by project or theme, so all my animal stock footage clips stay in one place, meanwhile all of my travel planning stays in another. I can collapse and expand them as needed, keeping my workspace clean and clutter-free. I can even drag one tab down to activate the awesome split screen feature, which splits the window so I can work on two things at once without needing to switch back and forth between tabs or open a separate browser session. Look, I can reopen all of my research in a single move. Opera is also super customizable, so I picked a theme that I felt really matched the fantasy gaming vibe that I love. It even has sound effects. For me, Opera's best feature is its built-in music player, which I can detach to fully control my music without needing to interrupt my workflow. I can even use it outside the browser, so I can edit while listening to my tunes. Same thing applies for videos. With the video pop-out feature, I can detach videos while browsing or using another app on my computer. For example, I can watch an educational video while I do my research or answer my emails. It's super practical for multitasking and productivity. Opera has been a game changer for me, and I know you'll love it too. Check the description below to download Opera for free today. Thank you so much for watching, and special thanks to my patrons, especially my amazing God tier Patreon supporters, Andrew Nichols, Nix, Raz Taraj, Enchiri, and Sidra.
Beautiful video. Love Tirazu. How am I not subscribed? I should be subscribed. I've been watching Tirazu for a minute. Let's see. Frozen bees? Okay. That has potential. Is this the Isle or Path of Exile? No, this is kind of like a simulation thing. CGI. Bad CGI. Interesting. Not something I can watch on stream. Ooh. I feel like when I watch Kurzagast, there's not a lot to react to though, because I'm just getting told how stupid I am. Heart Assault? What? No. Animals that broke Darwin's theory of evolution? Yeah. Alright, we're going back up. We're gonna try this. It's a short video anyway.
Fat is your most dangerous organ. Yes, organ. While it's often falsely described as a mere expression of laziness or gluttony, fat is essential for health, controlling and guiding crucial processes in your body. But if you have too much fat, it starts to disrupt your metabolism, becoming one of the most deadly things that can happen to your body. Today, more people are obese than starving, which is a huge victory. There are all sorts of ideas about the cause of the obesity epidemic, but it really comes down to one thing. For millions of years, humans had to expend a lot of effort to get food and often faced hunger. Our bodies evolved to hold on to every bit of energy. And then suddenly, we had an overabundance of food we didn't need to move much for. We made food hyper-palatable and ultra-processed, with loads of unhealthy fats, salt and sugar. Our brains love this, so our food is extremely hard to resist, to the point of being addictive. It's also extremely convenient, cheap, and you get a lot of energy per volume, so it's not very satiating. This leads to most of us regularly overeating without realizing it, and food is aggressively marketed, especially to children. Fat comes with a lot of shame and blame, which is
Although I wouldn't have blamed fat for cereal and stuff like that in children, I definitely would have blamed like sugar more. And I know sugar has a part to play because like the more sugar you have in your body, as your body stores it, it'll burn that. It'll burn. Might have went down for a sec. We might be experiencing lag issues and disconnects, but my internet seems to be fine, so hopefully it's not gonna continue to be a problem. Anyway, fast and use the energy you're eating. That's it.
pretty unfair in a world full of things that make you feel nice and are available within minutes. Body fat is also often unfairly villainized, but it's crucially important for your health, and if you don't have enough, you can suffer problems from infertility to a weak immune system, fatigue, mental health issues, and osteoporosis. Still, none of this changes how bad excess fat is for us. So, how does our fat organ become so destructive, and can we help ourselves?
You have too much. Put the fork down. Stop eating. And I know I'm one to speak. You can't tell because I'm sitting and the camera doesn't go below my man boob. But I've got meat on my bones. I've got a gut too. I definitely am in the category of closer to obese than fit. No, actually, I think I'm technically closer to fit, but not by much. My BMI is still pretty high for a guy my size. I can still put the fork down if I want to. I've been thinner than I am now. I can go back. I've just been very happy lately and food tastes good. But put the fork down. Stop eating so much. Start using your energy more. And honestly, that's it. Even if you can't use well, you should be able to use your energy more because there have been morbidly obese people to the point where you like can't get out of bed. And doctors say like the best thing for that is if you can't even like move at all, like just try something like this. Whatever you can do. Just some movement. Some movement is better than no movement. You do this, and eventually you start doing this, and eventually you start doing this, and eventually you start doing all this, and eventually you can move your whole body again, so you just gotta use the energy, not eat as much. Yeah, keep the cycle going, and eventually you can get yourself from like the worst point back to wherever you need to be as a person.
What is fat? If you consume more energy than you burn, you store it as triglycerides, an organic battery bustling with energy, collected in a large drop of fat inside a white fat cell. Gain weight and white fat cells expand with fat, lose weight, and they shrink. Only in the last few decades have we learned fat's most important job. Fat is an endocrine organ, part of the system that makes the most important job. Fat,
meaning these are all of the systems that operate off of fat, all of these different systems, including your like reproductive systems.
is an endocrine organ, part of the system that makes and regulates your hormones, chemical signals for your brain, liver, muscles, digestive tract, and immune system, making them work correctly together. Unfortunately, if you become overweight and obese, your fat organ and the many hormones it releases turn insane. In adults, fat comes in two types of white fat depots. Most of it is subcutaneous fat, the gooey soft stuff under your skin that insulates against the cold and serves as energy storage. The other one is visceral fat nestled between your organs, providing a soft cushion for your sensitive insides. But it also happens to be more dangerous. These fat cells are super sensitive to stress hormones like cortisol or adrenaline. When they pick up a surge of stress, they release fatty acids directly into your blood and are picked up by your liver as a rapid source of energy. On top of that, your visceral fat is very metabolically active, in a constant hormonal dialogue with the rest of your body. This is also why the health of two people with the same weight and amount of fat can be totally different. If you're pear-shaped and your fat is mostly in your hips or limbs, you're much less at risk than someone apple-shaped with a lot of fat in their torso. Bite by bite.
In other words, when you get stressed, your body sends your brain sends your body signals with hormones that allow you to get energy, an emergency source of energy that will allow you to like do stuff that you normally couldn't do, and push your body to like a further limit that was normally possible. That's why you hear about like the moms picking up the cars and how we as hunter-gatherers back in the day were able to fight off like tigers and stuff like that. Because in a fight or flight scenario, your brain sends signals and you get like super energy, and your limiter, quote unquote limiter, is removed in a way where you don't like feel danger or pain as much. Your adrenaline starts going, cortisol starts going, and according to this, the more fat you have in your body, the more energy you can release on a moment's notice into your body, which if you're not burning properly, because stress signals can come from literally anything, will just overwork your body. That's not good.
As you gain unhealthy weight, excess visceral fat triggers a cascade of negative changes all at once. Fat cells bloat up to their limit until they outgrow their blood supply and get starved of oxygen. They become critically stressed or even die. This is bad. If you're overweight or obese, your fat is basically a wounded organ leaking stress and poison into your system. Especially your visceral fat, even more triggered by the extra stress hormones, makes your blood more fatty. This overfeeds your organs like your liver or your muscles, who can't keep up anymore and begin to take damage. The cellular stress and dead fat cells are emergency signals that call your immune system to a fight. Armies of macrophages invade your fat tissue, creating clusters trying to eliminate the cause of the stress, but can't. So, they stay and call for more help. In a lean person's fat, immune cells make up about 5% of cells. In an obese person's fat, up to 40%. Active immune cells cause inflammation, bloating up your tissue and releasing even more alarm signals, which is good for a short amount of time when you're sick, but if it becomes chronic, it's like your entire body is under friendly fire. The inflammation molecules and fatty acids rip countless tiny wounds into the insides of your blood vessels, which leads to plaques that desperately try to close them. This narrows your blood vessels and reduces the flow of oxygen-rich blood. Inflammation also causes your blood pressure to rise, so your heart has to work harder and your risk of heart attacks or strokes increases massively. To make things worse, your fat organ's hormone production gets out of whack. Like leptin, the satiety hormone. With a healthy amount of fat, leptin tells your brain when you have enough energy storage, can eat less and spend more energy. But if you have too much fat, instead of becoming less hungry, your brain becomes resistant against the constant flood of leptin. This breaks your internal food thermostat, which is one of the reasons why many people who are overweight feel intense hunger. Their fat.
The more you eat, the more you eat, the more you eat is the more you eat. So you put the fork down.
Fat is screaming at their brain that they have enough, but the brain is not hearing the message anymore. Your sex hormones also get out of whack, testosterone is lowered while estrogen is overproduced. In women, this increases the risk of breast cancer significantly. Most people are not aware how much the risk of cancer rises with excess fat. In the US, almost 10% of all cancers are directly related to being overweight or obese. And to top this off, obese cancer patients have much worse outcomes, succumbing to the disease more often and sooner. None of this is great, but even worse is what happens to one of your most important hormones, insulin. When the hormone world explodes. Insulin is a hormone produced by your pancreas that tells your cells to open their tiny mouths and eat up glucose from your blood. It's your body's way of screaming, dinner time. Disastrously bombarded by the stress from your excess fat, cells all over your body become insulin resistant, worse at eating glucose and taking up energy. Your body tries to compensate by pumping out more insulin, screaming louder. This can go on silently for many years and progress to prediabetes with no or only subtle symptoms like fatigue or hunger. But as the damage accumulates, eventually your body just can't keep up anymore. Something breaks and you get type 2 diabetes. The cells responsible for insulin production are so overworked that they stop functioning properly and eventually give in. Your insulin crashes drastically and your body can't compensate. While the blood is now saturated with glucose, yet you're starving and feel exhausted and unwell. Imagine this as trillions of tiny sharp shards floating through you, damaging your blood vessels, nerves and organs, causing slow but constant damage everywhere.
That mental image freaks me out, I'm not gonna lie. I hate the idea of anything like floating around in my body, just like I stepped on a glass shard once and it went in my foot as a kid and I don't know if it ever came out. I shouldn't have said that, now I'm gonna think about that for the rest of the day. But I think, long story short again, you eat and then you eat and then you eat and then you have so much extra energy in your body that your body like, what? And it don't know how to use it. And then it start freaking out because you keep eating more but you're not burning what you already have. Yeah, it's a bad cycle.
At this point, your body is so chronically inflamed that almost all organ systems are affected. The kidneys are overwhelmed, making you pee way more. Your vision gets blurry, your immune system is severely weakened, wounds heal slower, dying nerves lead to numbness and pain. You may experience shortness of breath, chest discomfort, erectile dysfunction and high blood pressure, problems with your memory, focus, mood, and even depression. Your risk of developing just about every possible deadly disease.
I was on board until they said ED and then I'm like, no, I'm good. Everything we're down there is still working okay, so I'm good.
Goes through the roof. On average, type 2 diabetes shaves 10 years off your life and reduces your health span massively, arguably as much as smoking. If current obesity trends continue, up to 1 in 3 Americans will have diabetes by 2050. There is no nice way to put this. Excessive fat strains nearly every organ system in your body, ages you much quicker, and often leads to multi-system damage and dysfunction. And yet, fat is still mostly discussed through the lens of aesthetics first and health second. Which is kind of baffling considering that most, if not all, of the toxic effects of your excess fat basically go away as soon as you lose it and start eating a healthy-ish diet.
So the first point is because people care more about looking good than feeling good or being healthy. So the second point, eating healthy is hard. Why would I eat a banana when chocolate cake tastes so good? Just eat chocolate cake all the time.
Once your fat cells contract again, they stop being stressed and your immune system calms down. The excess blood fat and sugar drops to normal levels and your body recovers. Even if you already have full-blown diabetes type 2, by losing weight you can reverse many of the negative effects and drastically improve your health and lifespan. So, if you've been waiting for a push to get started, now is the time. Feeding your body nutrition.
I got a cat, by the way, so there's no way I should get a dog so I can run through the park. But no way this mofo is gonna even try to step foot out the backyard door, let alone run through a park with me. Pardon me for moving the camera. But I gotta show this off. Look at that goober. Look at that goober. See how comfy he is in his little bed? You see that? You think Dad's running around the park anytime soon? You really think I'm gonna get that thing to come exercise with me? Nah. He don't even want to go outside. So I need to get me a dog, maybe, if I want to do something like that. Run through a park. I've seen people do that. That's the only reason why I would run outside and not like on a treadmill in a gym. It's for the dog.
food keeps it healthy. The same goes for what you feed your mind. When you swap mental junk food for a power-packed diet of ideas and problem-solving, you can finally unlock its potential. That's where our friends at Brilliant come in. Brilliant is like a superfood for your mind. Its visual, interactive approach helps you unleash your inner maths person, bring your ideas to life with code, and become a better thinker and problem solver. On Brilliant, you learn by doing, experimenting, exploring, and making discoveries for yourself. This isn't just a lot of fun, it really works. An analysis of over 200 studies showed that active learning is far more effective than lectures and other passive methods. Because each learner is different, Brilliant personalizes your experience, starting you at the right level and ramping you up step by step. And with new topics and fresh challenges added constantly, Brilliant keeps your mental metabolism running strong. To learn for free on Brilliant, go to brilliant.org/nutshell, scan the QR code on screen, or click on the link in the description. Brilliant's also given our viewers 20% off an annual premium subscription, which gives you unlimited daily access to everything on Brilliant. Taking care of your health can feel very overwhelming. We know exactly how this feels. That's why we created a health journal. We've developed a framework to help you figure out what actually works for your life without pressure or guilt. Want to focus on your diet? Start with the food and nutrition chapter, or dive into physical fitness or mental health. Each chapter is packed with real science, lots of examples and inspiration to get you started, but you can make it completely your own to fit your individual needs. We also made it as beautiful and fun as possible, as taking care of your health should always be. After the Gratitude Journal and the Habit Journal, this is the third part in our best-selling journal series. Just give yourself 1 month. Try it. See where it takes you.
Very good. Wait, yeah, okay. Very good video. I love Kurzgast. I've been watching them for years. Very good. I learned stuff about the way fat works with my body. I didn't know about the part of it that cushions your organs. I mean, figured, but no, actually no. I thought it was mostly just like blood in between. I didn't really think it was fat. I thought it was mostly just like you're just a bag of blood, really. I don't know. I'm not really a biologist. I'm more of like a astronomer than anything, or like a chemist. All right, let's go back. Ooh, I don't know if I want to watch that. That's a little controversial. As opposed to, oh man, see the news is already coming in. We're gonna have to watch this later. But that's not the first one. We're gonna watch this first because I want to know what that is. But not right now. Let's give it another like hour before we start getting into more sensitive topics. We could still warm up a little bit. Let's see. Go back to home. Don't really care about that. I do kind of want to know what this is about.
In the middle of the Sahara, where the air shimmers with the heat, dozens of crates are opened. Out of them burst bees, thousands, millions, right above the sand, in temperatures close to 122 degrees Fahrenheit.
In a desert? Listen, I know I just said I'm not like a biologist. I'm also not an environmentalist. I'm not familiar with bees in their entirety. Something tells me 122 degrees in the middle of a desert with like few plants besides like cactus. That's a recipe for disaster. These poor bees. I don't see many of them surviving. That's gonna be my first initial take. I hope this video proves me wrong.
People in white protective suits step back and the swarm disappears. At first glance, it's madness, releasing bees in the hottest desert on the planet. But in 2023, the UN and several African governments actually decided to test whether it's possible to bring life back to the Sahara with the help of insects. For this experiment, bee queens were caught somewhere in Europe over 2 weeks, kept in refrigerators to slow down their metabolism, and then transported across the sea and through the sands to the heart of the desert. All for one goal: to make the lifeless land green again, to give plants a chance to restore the soil and maybe one day turn these dunes into meadows and fields. But the Sahara doesn't welcome outside.
How much of this is actual footage and how much of this is like CGI AI generated? Because
Turn these dunes.
that doesn't look like that's real at all. Just keeping it $1.50. This looks like what they wanted to plan and project. This looks like they photoshopped this for like a PowerPoint presentation. It's a good Photoshop, don't get me wrong. I'm just saying I don't think this is real. This is AI.
Dunes into meadows and fields. But the Sahara doesn't welcome outsiders, and from the first moment it was obvious this experiment might not go the way they hoped. Sandy Stand. An unobtrusive reminder to do that thing under the video. What happens when bees appear somewhere? Everything changes. Not gradually, literally from the first days. Bees are the engine of the planet. Without them, half of the food we're used to simply wouldn't exist. Almost a third of all crops in the US depend on honeybees.
Bees are important, man. We gotta protect the bees. I saw a video in high school about this. I'm not saying we would all die if we didn't have bees, but I feel like we would all die if we didn't have bees. I don't know what the science is. I don't feel like humans, or any species on the planet for that matter, would do nearly as well without these bees. They're that important.
From apples and almonds to melons, lettuce, and broccoli, they connect plants into a single living system. When bees disappear, the chain falls apart, and there's no way to replace it. Without pollination, plants can't reproduce. Without plants, herbivores vanish. Without herbivores, predators go away. Step by step, nature crumbles. In Europe, about 80% of all crops and wildflowers depend on bees. Take them away, and almost 9 out of 10 species will simply be gone. But this balance works both ways. When bees return to places where they'd been gone, everything comes back to life. Flowers bloom again, seeds spread farther, new forms of life gather around them. That's exactly what the experiment in the Sahara was meant for. To make life's chain reaction begin again where there's only been sand for thousands of years. To make the desert itself disappear. It's hard to think of the desert as an enemy until you look at a map. The Sahara isn't just sand, it's a giant that's already swallowed half a continent. The largest hot desert on Earth keeps growing, claiming new land from people every year. Its body stretches from the Atlantic to the Red Sea across 11 countries: Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, Libya, Egypt, and farther down into Africa. In Algeria, it covers 80% of the land. In Libya, almost 95%. Even in Egypt, 2/3 of the country are already under sand. Satellite images show it clearly. The Sahara isn't standing still, it's moving. But people still keep trying to fight back. Egypt, for example, grows crops right among the dunes, green circles in the middle of nowhere, like an attempt to prove that the Sahara can be fooled. But the desert doesn't retreat. Over the past few decades, it's grown by about 10% and keeps creeping forward, swallowing pastures, towns, everything in its path. So
I don't think the idea is to contain the desert. I think it's just to be able to survive in the desert. The problem is, how long can you do that? If 95% of Libya is the number that really got me. It's like I'm not a geologist. I'm not a stenographer. I'm a map guy. All right. I don't know all the places on the map, but I couldn't name too many cities out of Libya And I'm wondering if that's why. Something to think about anyway. Why are all these dead bees on my screen right now? What's up?
The idea of bringing life back here looks not just desperate, it's insane. Releasing bees into a place where the air itself melts. These are insects that die at 104 degrees Fahrenheit, while in the Sahara, the sand heats up to 158 degrees Fahrenheit. But people still decided to release bees into the desert. To give you an idea how sensitive bees are, let's take another hot place, Nevada. There are over 1,000 bee species living there, but since the early 2000s, their numbers have been steadily dropping. Partly because in the southern part of the state, it gets so hot that hives literally melt. And bees aren't stupid, they just fly off looking for better conditions. Speaking of melting, that's not a metaphor. A hive can actually start to move when it overheats. Bees do love warmth, but everything has its limit. The perfect temperature inside the hive is about 95 degrees Fahrenheit, and if it gets any hotter, that's game over. The larva can stop developing and die. The colony weakens, sometimes even the queen stops laying eggs until it cools down. Adult bees usually handle heat a bit better, but at extreme temperatures, everything falls apart. Literally at 104 degrees Fahrenheit, the honeycomb starts softening and collapsing because they're made of beeswax. That wax is the foundation of the whole hive. It's used to build those hexagonal cells where they store honey, pollen, and raise their young. It gives the hive its house structure. But wax is a tricky material. It melts in heat like a candle because, well, candles are made of wax too. So if the temperature rises too high, everything the bees built for weeks or even years just melts away. There's even a real-life example. In 2022, in the Moroccan village of Inzerki, down in the southwest, spring came with silence instead of the usual buzzing. Huge bee colonies died from drought. For a village where beekeeping was the main source of income, it became an ecological and economic disaster.
Ripperonis for everybody involved, is what I'm hearing. See, I'm telling y'all, bees are important. And you can't mess with them. That's the whole... If any argument ever actually alarmed me about like climate change and all that, was the bees. Was like if the temperature changes too drastically, these very sensitive and important creatures just poof. And we don't want that. So I'm not sure why they're doing this desert experiment. It seems stupid. I hope the videos just set me up to be dumbfounded by this. By how it actually worked.
And Morocco, by the way, partly lies within the Sahara zone. The desert doesn't cover the whole country, of course, but it's nearby, and apparently bees there are already in serious trouble. So for now, all this doesn't sound too promising. It's like the bees don't stand much of a chance in such conditions. Surprisingly enough, bees actually know how to deal with heat. They've got their own perfectly effective cooling methods. Like I said, the ideal temperature inside a hive is...
Look at them, they're all just doing like tiny twerks. They just tiny twerks. That has something to do with it.
Around 95 degrees Fahrenheit. In winter, bees keep it warm by huddling tightly together, sealing up cracks and just buzzing. Yeah, the sounds we hear from outside actually help them generate heat. In summer, it's the other way around. To avoid overheating, worker bees fly back and forth all day long, creating airflow. And when it gets really hot outside, the foragers bring back not only nectar and pollen, but also water. It evaporates and cools the inside of the hive. Some bees even fan their wings like tiny ventilators to keep the air moving. That's why beekeepers usually don't worry about their colonies unless the temperature climbs above 100 degrees Fahrenheit. That's already pretty hot, but most of the time the bees manage just fine, blowing the hot air out of their hives. Real problems start only when the heat lasts too long, and that's exactly what happens in the Sahara all the time. Still, there's a way out. You could release not regular bees there, but local ones, those that already know how to live in the heat. And such bees do exist.
Yeah, but it's like 158 degrees, like... I'm still confused as to how you can even... And that's just the sand, right? So I'm confused as to how you can even, like he said, have a hive out there if it's made out of, like... Do these bees not make their hives out of wax? What's going on?
For example, the East African lowland honeybee, It's a subspecies of the common honeybee and looks almost the same, just a bit smaller. Its upper body is covered with soft fuzz and its abdomen has black stripes. Basically a bee like any other. It lives in the southern and eastern parts of Africa, already hot regions where other species would struggle. Over thousands of years, these bees have adapted to drought and heat, and at the same time have become more aggressive. Naturally, they're not angry just for the sake of it, it's about survival. In Africa, natural selection works like this. Only colonies that can defend their stores and their hives survive. They chase away predators, fight competitors for food, and as a result, pass on their genes. The calmer, less active colonies simply vanished over time. There's
Fuck that bull in particular.
another interesting option, the Arabian or Nubian honeybee. It lives just south of the Sahara in Sudan, Somalia, and the southern part of the Arabian Peninsula, basically right around the region where we want to run our experiment. These bees handle drought really well and can survive summer heat above 104 degrees Fahrenheit. In the same conditions, other subspecies lose entire colonies in just one season, while the Nubian honeybees keep living and working. So if there are any bees that can survive in the Sahara, it's them. Scientists even call their heat resistance one of a kind. First off, they're a bit smaller than regular honeybees. It might seem like a small thing, but that's exactly what helps them deal with heat stress. Size really matters here because a smaller body means faster heat exchange. Such bees get rid of excess heat more easily and don't overheat. And when the hive gets crowded, there's actually more space between smaller bees, so the hive doesn't turn into an oven. Young bees inside don't get baked alive. That's pretty important too. Secondly, they're lighter in color than other species. Their yellowish tone reflects some sunlight, and their short hair helps them stay cool.
Color is so important when it comes to heat absorption and reflection. Black absorbs heat so much, like so much more than yellow, white. Even dark blue absorbs heat, and like purple absorbs heat pretty good, and brown. So like what you're wearing when you go outside is super important. It's a game changer. It really is.
Basically, they've got a built-in sun protection system. On top of that, these bees live in smaller colonies, and if it gets too hot, they simply reduce their numbers to keep the hive from overheating. Smart, right? Too bad you can't do that on public transport. And that's not all. Nubian honeybees...
You can't. It's a crime. It's a federal crime. You could go to prison for that. Forever. It's called murder. Mass murder. You can't do it though. That's my only point.
Have genetic differences, special cells, and even slightly different behavior.
Just once. Let me clarify. You can do it just once now.
In everyday life, they act differently, all for the sake of surviving the heat that kills other bees. In short, you can't release ordinary bees into the Sahara. The climate would just wipe them out. But with these ones, it might actually work. At least they've got a real shot. By the way, just 15 years ago, in the middle of the sun-scorched Sahara, they actually found bees, real honeybees, alive, working, just lost among the sands. In the Kufra Oasis, right in the northern part of the desert, scientists discovered bees that had been living there in isolation for about 10,000 years. Imagine that. The same colonies, generation after generation, surrounded by sand, cut off from the rest of the world. Technically, they're Apis mellifera, the same honeybee that pollinates apples, melons, nuts, and basically every third bite of food on the planet. But genetic analysis showed that the Kufra bees are noticeably different from all the others. It's like they've evolved on their own. According to researchers, these bees settled in Kufra around 5,000 to 10,000 years ago, right when the climate suddenly changed and the once green savanna turned into what we now call the desert. Today, all life in the oasis depends on underground water. Without it, nothing would survive. But before that climate shift, some 11,000 years ago, the Sahara looked completely different. There were lakes, rivers,
That looks a lot more green. I'll tell you what. You can tell by the color of like the white and green and the yellow. In the top left, the white and yellow smaller. And then it get bigger and bigger. And then today you have a lot of white and yellow. Not as much green, dark green.
Meadows, forests. Africa was a green continent that later dried up and turned to sand. But that's a topic for another video. Today we're talking about bees, and the fact that there's still hope to bring them back. These hermit bees prove that life can hold on even in the very heart of the desert. And if they're released not into bare sand, but into places with at least a bit of vegetation, where there's nectar to collect, the bees can survive. If you think about it, bringing bees back could give African farmers not just an ecological benefit, but a very real economic one. Pollination isn't just about flowers and honey, it's a serious business. In the US, for example, scientists estimate that wild bees contribute about $3.1 billion to agriculture every year. Add in the domesticated honeybees and the total shoots up to $15 billion. And as I mentioned before,
Yeah, damn. Bees make more money than I ever will.
without these insects, half the fruits and vegetables we eat simply wouldn't exist. Nothing can replace them, not drones, not robots. In southwest China, where bees have almost disappeared because of habitat loss, all kinds of pesticides, and overly active honey harvesting, farmers had to take brushes in their hands. Yes, regular paintbrushes to
This is AI. He's not even painting anything. What is he brushing? What are you brushing with that brush? The air? This is AI.
manually pollinate apple and pear blossoms, transferring pollen from one flower to another. So if Africa manages to bring bee populations back, it'll also be a pretty big economic win. And you know what? There's a place where bees in the desert don't just survive, they actually make a difference. It's Israel. Down south in the Arava Desert, life is buzzing, all thanks to honeybees. Local farmers have learned to grow bee colonies right among the sands, and the results are impressive. On the Porid farm in the Ein Yahav settlement, bees are downright thriving. I mean, all around is scorched land, almost like a lunar landscape. And then, suddenly, there's the hum of hives and fields full of blooming plants. The Arava Desert, which is part of the Negev, has unexpectedly turned out to be a perfect place for beekeeping. The air here is clean with almost no industrial pollution, which means the bees get sick far less often, fewer infections, fewer pests, and healthy colonies produce steady honey and help pollinate the crops. The local farmers literally rely on bees. They rent hives from beekeepers and place them right on their fields. As a result, harvests grow richer and fruits and vegetables become better in quality. And by the way, farms in the Arava now produce more than half of all agricultural products in Israel. If I were a bee, I'd definitely add that to my resume.
And as far as I'm aware, I don't know if it's all like desert, but Israel's pretty like hot and sandy in a lot of places. It's very arid. So I imagine just very hard to grow most kinds of crops out there. So this is pretty impressive, I'm not gonna lie to you.
So what am I getting at? The point is, even in a hot, dry environment, bees can not only survive, they can become key players in the economy. So theoretically, something similar could happen in Africa. So what other benefits can come from releasing bees? For example, a chance to save the entire global population of these insects. And they really do need saving.
What are those little black things? They look like little tiny squids. They're just little guys. Little squid, little octopus. Octopody. With a little funny head. Little mushroom head.
There's a parasite out there that kills hives from the inside. The problem's been around for a long time. All across the Northern Hemisphere, beekeepers are reporting massive losses of bee colonies. And this is no longer just sad statistics, it's a threat to food security. You know how the chain works. Fewer bees, less pollination, smaller harvests, less food. There are several reasons behind these mass bee deaths: diseases, parasites, habitat loss, poisoning. But among all the enemies of bees, there's one that stands out as especially dangerous: the varroa mite, or Varroa destructor in Latin. Sounds like some super villain from the 80s.
I don't know about that one, Chief, but I would say little mushroom guy. Scary mushroom guy.
But in reality, it's a tiny external parasite that latches onto a bee and drinks its body fluids, weakening it. Varroa mites are a real nightmare for beekeepers. It causes more damage than all other bee diseases combined. The parasite originally came from Asia, where it lived on the Asian honeybee, and as often happens, they eventually reached a balance. The mites reproduced mostly on the drone brood, that is on the males, while the other bees learned to find and clean them off. They even developed what's called hygienic behavior. They toss out infected larvae and groom each other to get rid of the mites. Everything was more or less fine. Until the 1950s, when the mite jumped onto the European honeybee, the one that makes most of the world's honey. And that's when the real trouble began, because European bees don't have those defense mechanisms. The mites breed right inside the cells with worker and drone larvae, eventually infecting the whole hive. And the thing is, these parasites don't just drink bee fluids, they also carry viruses. As a result, the colony weakens, loses its ability to defend itself, and almost always dies unless humans intervene. For instance, bees all over the world are now facing one of the most dangerous threats, the deformed wing virus. It's spread by the Varroa mite, and this combo has already wiped out millions of colonies in the US, Europe, and Asia.
These little mushroom heads are a serious problem, it sounds like. What are we doing about this? Are we doing something about this? What's going on here?
It all started back in the 1990s. Back then, scientists first recorded mass bee deaths. Every year, at least a third of all hives disappeared. And although at first the virus only affected honeybees, now it's been found in 18 different species. The biggest issue is that no one has managed to completely get rid of the Varroa mite. Not a single country in the world. Once it enters a population, that's it. There's no turning back. For a long time, Australia was the only continent free of the Varroa mite, but a few years ago an outbreak happened there too. To stop it, they had to destroy more than 28,000 hives. That's about 40 million bees. I can't even imagine that number. Obviously, the damage was massive. In just one Australian state, New South Wales, the government spent over $130 million on a program to eliminate the mite. And even then, there's no guarantee of success. Varroa keeps coming back again and again. But what do African bees have to do with this? Simple. They're not afraid of the mite. Bees in other parts of the world are much more vulnerable, especially in the northern hemisphere, where humans have been breeding them for centuries for honey and for their gentle temperament. Meaning, we deliberately made bees convenient so they'd sting less. But in the process, we accidentally weakened their natural immunity.
Why am I not surprised? Humans once again messing with stuff, screwing up the food chain. Now we're facing the consequences. Why am I not surprised? Although, this is not like a malicious use, so I guess let it slide, right? Because you breed the bees in the same way you breed like dogs, basically, to make them more convenient for humans to handle. But yeah, now we don't have wolves, right? So it's like priorities. Maybe we could have kept some of them a little bit aggressive, just so that, you know, we don't just lose a third of everything that we produce through these things because of basically a food chain oversight, I guess you can call it. And a little invasive mite. That's scary, dude. Losing all of that because breeding is scary.
Yes, we got more honey, the bees got calmer, but the genetic diversity within the species dropped. And that's exactly what helps a species survive: disease, heat, and parasites. East African lowland honeybees live by completely different rules. They practically don't suffer from the Varroa mite and can easily survive without human help. Local beekeepers don't even consider the mite a threat. They rarely lose colonies because of it. These bees come with parasite protection built into their factory settings. And that's where it gets really interesting. If African bees are truly resistant, they could become a real salvation for bees all over the world. We could, for example, try breeding hybrids, a mix of African and European bees that would keep their resilience but be less aggressive. And if bees go completely extinct somewhere because of mites, pesticides, or climate change, African bees could serve as a backup. They could be relocated to areas where nature's already been destroyed to help restore it. Of course, that's a last resort, but theoretically it's possible. And if African bees managed to conquer the Sahara, their range would expand and their colonies would become more genetically diverse, which means there would be more places to draw from for future relocations. And that's not all. If the introduced bees manage to take root in a new place, they could become not just pollinators, but also part of the food chain. For example, food for the honey badger. Despite its name, the honey badger doesn't live on honey alone. Its menu is quite something. Insects, frogs, turtles, lizards, rodents, snakes, birds, eggs. Sometimes it even eats plants, berries, roots, bulbs. I talked about this recently. Still, the name honey badger exists for a reason. The thing is, this animal hunts not for honey, but for bee larvae that live inside the comb. For this delicacy, honey badgers are ready to endure hundreds of stings. They break into the hive, tear.
He gonna eat your babies. He not worried about the good golden goop. He wanna eat the baby. That's where the protein is. And that's where Mama Bee been putting the work in, and that's mass protein right there. And look, he just sitting there. He just sitting there getting stung the hell up. He don't care. That's why they say honey badger don't give a shit. He just munching.
Apart with their paws and lick out everything they can find. And yes, the bees attack, but come on, it's a honey badger. It just doesn't care. Their thick skin is almost impossible to pierce. If you look at the map, you'll see the honey badger lives across nearly all of Africa except for the north. And right there in the north stretches the Sahara, a massive barrier dividing the continent into two different climate zones. Because of the heat and lack of water, neither tropical animals nor Mediterranean species can cross it. Right now, the Sahara is uninhabitable for the honey badger, too dry, too barren, and not even much to fight with. But what if we added bees? If they changed the landscape, vegetation would appear and people might start settling there. Gradually, the area would become more hospitable, and then, maybe, just maybe, the honey badger could really expand its range. But don't think I'm proposing this just because I like honey badgers, although I'll admit that might be part of it. Yes, the Sahara is hot and merciless, but even now it's full of snakes.
And that snake is side strafing you. He's giving you a straight eye with a side strafe. He's like side eyeing you, but like straight on. But like he's moving at you like he's just crazy. This snake side eye game is next level. It's sidewind, really.
From harmless racers to venomous vipers whose bites cause swelling, bleeding, and tissue death. Not always fatal, but without a hospital, you're in trouble. These reptiles know how to survive even where there's not a drop of water, simply getting moisture from their prey. And now imagine this. If the desert starts to come alive with plants, farms, and water, new species of snakes will move in from nearby regions where it used to be too crowded for them. Makes sense, right? Right. And sooner or later, the farmers who dreamed of growing crops and living peacefully will find hundreds of hissing, venomous neighbors under their feet, as if the old ones weren't enough. And that's when it's honey badger time. Snakes make up almost a quarter of its diet. Every honey badger grows up with them, hunts them since childhood, and over the years builds resistance to venom. For most predators, a viper's bite is a death sentence. But for the honey badger, just dinner with a spicy aftertaste. So bees solve two problems at once.
Honey badger doesn't care. Just doesn't give it. Yo, that's metal as hell. He's just chomping on the head of a snake. It's probably like venom all over his tongue. He's like, Tabasco, delicious.
They don't just change the landscape, making it greener and more habitable, but they also attract a predator that can keep the number of venomous snakes in check. So we release bees into the Sahara. Can it change, turn green, become an oasis? Well, actually, no. You can't expect a single bee colony to just turn a barren desert into lush land. That's not how it works. For plants to even grow, they need water, seeds, and proper soil. Bees are pollinators, not gardeners. They help plants reproduce, but they don't create water out of thin air. Yes, in theory, if there were already some plants around, bees could speed up their spread, pollinate flowers, boost yields. But in practice, it all comes down to climate. There's little water in the desert, both above and below ground. Rainfall's almost non-existent, and underground sources are scarce. And if greenery suddenly increases, competition begins. Every new plant will pull moisture from the same meager supply. In the end, some seedlings just won't survive. So the bees' work won't give us the miracle we imagine. The desert won't turn into a green paradise just because they appear. And honestly, wiping out the desert isn't a good idea anyway. Strange as it may sound, it serves an important purpose. The Sahara is the main supplier of dust on the planet. And yes, that actually matters. Every year it releases between 400 and 700 million tons of dust into the atmosphere, which powerful winds then lift and scatter for thousands of miles. You think dust is a bad thing? Maybe, if you live in a city hit by Saharan winds. But in fact, dust carries iron and other trace elements that are vital for the oceans. Marine bacteria and phytoplankton use that iron to grow, and plankton is the foundation of all marine life. Without it, there would be no fish, no whales, no normal life in the ocean at all. So, Saharan dust drifts across the Atlantic, some of it settling over the ocean.
Karen, I want you to write a strongly worded message to that crabs telling him just how important I really am. Sorry for the bad impression. I wasn't trying to be spot on, but just imagine.
In the Mediterranean Sea, the rest gets carried even farther, to the Amazon, Scandinavia, Japan. Yes, Saharan dust actually reaches that far. And in the Amazon basin, it does some crucial work. It just so happens that the soil in the Amazon Valley is poor in phosphorus, an element plants can't grow without. And Saharan dust makes up for that shortage, delivering nutrients, a natural fertilizer of sorts. Without it, the rainforest wouldn't be as lush and alive as it is. Almost all the nutrients in this region are locked inside the plants. When leaves fall and start to rot, part of the nutrients go back into the soil, and the trees immediately absorb them. The cycle is closed, but not perfect. On top of that, it rains a lot here, and floods happen too, washing phosphorus out of the soil. The very phosphorus that's already in short supply. All of it drains into streams and rivers, carrying nutrients away like constantly pulling the plug in a giant bathtub. And that's where Saharan dust comes in. It brings around 22,000 tons of phosphorus a year, almost as much as the rains wash away. The desert is basically providing the Amazon with humanitarian aid from a distance. But even without the Amazon, dust is an important part of the Earth's entire system. It affects the climate, the oceans, the plants. Turns out the desert that seems like a symbol of lifelessness actually supports life, just not on their own turf. For the countries that have the Sahara within their borders, it's a disaster. But for the rest of the world, it's a key part of the balance. Remove the desert and everything would change. And it's far from certain those changes would be for the better. And yes, scientists haven't done any bee experiments in the Sahara. We were talking about a hypothetical scenario. But honestly, the idea isn't that crazy. Maybe it deserves a closer look after all. You owe me a like. See you later.
I almost want to say I don't owe you a like, because all the AI knocking. It was still a very. It's a good thought experiment, really. Yeah, I don't think there's too much more I can add to that, really. I don't like the idea. What the hell is this? I might want to. I've never heard of surviving. Well, I've heard of surviving Mars, but I've never seen anything like that. So maybe. Yeah, I don't want to risk billions of bees on something that isn't guaranteed to work out, especially if, on the off chance it does work out, we don't really do too much with it. One or two, it can have some because two, it can have some drastic implications and influence on the rest of the world. Like, why would you want to get rid of the desert if it does this important job. Sure, people living there are gonna hate it, but don't live there. I mean, easier said than done when it's like expanding, right? But that's like a process of thousands of years. So I think for this generation, if you really hate it there, you could go to like Northern Africa or wherever it is. No, it's wherever it's just not. I think Western, southwestern-ish. It's like on the trigger part of the gun, if you know what I mean. That was such a dumb way to say it. Either way, you know what I mean. I mean, and I'm not just saying it's as easy as picking up and going, because it's not like, they have airplanes and whatnot. That's not the point of the video. The point of the video was bees, right? And yeah, more than anything, this video just reinforced how important bees are to me, which is, it was fascinating to hear about the species of bees, the African bees that can withstand heat, and we're basically better than the other bees because heat is such a huge problem. Oh, interesting. Stop being a little doofus. Alright. Maybe later. That's a long video too. Maybe later. Alright. It's time to get into at least a little bit of some stuff. Don't let the thumbnails on my shorts give you any indication of what I'm into. Why is this in the thumbnail? I guess I did just kind of complain about it a little bit. Super weapon. Oh, yeah. No, I wanted to see the other video. I just wanted to see if it was on my homepage. I'm gonna go through his list. This one I want to see.
Asmongold reacts to man. Oh wait, this is.
And yes, this is my guy. So if you're watching this, whenever you're watching this, and you don't like this man, probably don't want to continue watching my content. Just saying, this is not gonna be the last time.
Zoran Mandami is expected to require all New York elementary school students to learn Arabic numerals.
Am I back? There I am. Why? Is what I was saying. Why?
Require all New York elementary school students to learn Arabic numerals?
Yeah, why? I don't understand that. I don't get it. I thought we established that 1, 2, 3, the numbers we all used growing up. I thought we established this universally, globally, that was the way we're gonna do things. So why do we need this? For what purpose?
This is happening faster than I thought.
Oh my god.
I feel the same way, honestly, internally. I'm just trying to suppress it. But there are obviously some weird implications, right? I hope he says something like that. He's gonna say it, right?
No way. How many views does this have on TikTok? 14,000 likes? No way, dude. Wait, there's 3 of them. No. Target audience reached. No. This was a day ago. This was yesterday. No way. I can't believe this. Please say psych, bro. He never acknowledged that it was a joke. People in chat called him out, and he just moved on. I saw it.
I mean, because it's like a half joke, right? I mean, clearly, I think some of the stuff we see, though, it does anger me on some level. I'm trying to view it as satire because you can't just get just angry all the time, right? It's kind of funny the ridiculousness of the scenario, and it's like this is not what we expected, or at least not what I expected. Maybe other people expected this, and this people are getting exactly what they want. And I hope they are. I hope someone's getting what they want because I can't say this is what I would want.
I remember seeing this and thinking only the dumbest knuckle-dragging, mouth-breathing idiots could fall for it. But I was still so sure that someone would. I didn't expect to have a video of it live streamed hours later, though. That was a quick turnaround. Gentlemen, I think this might just be a new masterpiece.
Even Hassan said it's a joke. What the hell is wrong with these people?
Arabic numerals? This is happening faster than I thought.
It's a joke. There's no way he's being sincere. It's bait. He's not. You guys literally, if you think this is real, brother, Asmongold worked for the IRS.
Hang on, because now it's bothering me. Is this? Yeah, it's not real, right? Wait, so he is? I'm confused. Okay, so this claim is false. Additionally, is the common term for... Okay, so I'm stupid. That's good. No, I figured this was stupid. See, I'm thinking of like the Greek, so I'm like, do Arabics really have something else going on? Or, you know, things are bad when you can't tell if this is real or a joke. Dear God, it's real, isn't it? I mean, I guess I fell for it. I got a little. Yeah, see, I didn't know this. Well, I guess I did know this. I just didn't remember that. For some reason, I thought Arabic was its own thing. I forget that our. I forgot that our number system comes from that. That's my bad. That's an L right here. That's an L. But I get it now. Okay, I feel like a little dumb, but so the joke is that people think it's all right. Got
It's
it.
bait, bro. It's bait. This is rage bait. Those are normal numbers. No, bro.
That's a little. Two Asmins in my ear at the same time is a bit much.
Like, no, these are numbers. These are normal. You got baited, Asmon. These are Roman. No, these are Roman numerals. No, Asmon. No.
Wait, Roman? What? Roman is the other one. Roman is the VIV XIV. Yeah. Yeah, this right here. We use them for That's where I'm at now. What's going on?
Stop the farm. Rage bait. Man. It's bait. No, bro. You know Sharia law is next. Google it, bro. Arabic numerals are just numbers. Look, bro. Is this the taqiyya that the Islam has, where they're lying to me, telling me they're normal numbers? Is this happening to me right now? Am I being gaslighted by Muslims? Is this happening?
So he is rage baiting.
It's happening at this very moment.
Got it.
Bro, we gotta stop this quick.
He's rage baiting a bit
before it gets worse. Let me go back. I'll find some more of these posts here too. Where's the rest of it?
Assassin's
Creed team has started working on the next Assassin's Creed.
Wait, what?
Creed team has started working on the next Assassin's Creed. Just stop, guys. Just stop.
I agree. No, right there, not rage bait. 100% agree. I really don't want to say unless they can make one like the olden days and pull it out of the crapper. Because that's what we thought this last one was going to be, right? That last one was their last chance? Is that where we're all at? Because I'm not a Ubisoft fan. I liked Brotherhood, but I stopped shortly after, and I heard Black Flag was worth playing, and I never played it. Oops, shoot me, I guess? I don't know. First thing was rage bait. This is hilarious, though.
Just
real.
stop it. Well, with that money, and they're still trying to correct it. They're still mad. They're still mad. Good God. Oh my God. You are understanding it, bro. Arabic numerals, bro. Make them gay. Oh my fuck. We use Arabic numerals. Isn't Arabic numeral just 1 to 10?
He's so satisfied with himself for that. And you know what? I would be too.
This is, wow.
Say it. Say how happy you are.
The acting was so good, even chat thought it was serious. Layers of farming. Well, to me, this is what okay, let me read some of the other comments, okay? How about we read some of the other comments of the people that were listening to this?
Because I'm stupid, but it got me.
Okay. Give me a second. All right, let's look at it. Here we go. If I could draw an image of a hunter finding knuckle-shaped drag marks and saying there were Asmongold viewers here, but instead of that, there's also... Oh my God. Please say psych, bro. He never acknowledged it. Having linked to a source... You're making shit up. What is this? How he got...
So Redditors legit thinks this way. That's funny. That's even funnier to me. Now I'm getting the layers of farming. Now I'm starting to understand. People get so mad over what he thinks. Like, even if you thought he was an idiot, just say he was an idiot, and that's it. Move on. He didn't say that he was just kidding, so he must obviously think this, and because he obviously thinks this, he's stupid.
Outraged and then continued to rant about it. That's how you stay dumb. Never acknowledge it and move on to the next topic. Next topic. That's because he's a goddamn dumbass.
Rent free. That's all the rent free.
Oh my God. Wait till you hear about Amandami is gonna make sure how dihydrogen. Oh, this is the water. Yeah, they did this one too. The Arabic numerals of 0 through. Man, the problem with jokes like this is that dumb fuck conservatives won't get the joke and will just resort to racism.
Is it really just conservatives, though?
Please make it very clear that you were always aware that it was bait and your comments were referring to the joke. What do you mean? What do you mean by that?
I think there's just a lot of dumb.
What are you talking about?
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, I don't know why they elected him either. Yeah, guys, I don't know. Like, it's... Yeah, what do you mean? What joke? What do you mean? Who's laughing? Yeah, you're not going to be laughing. I told y'all not going to be laughing whenever he's the mayor. You're not going to be laughing. Like, that's it. I don't watch this dude, but I hope the clip isn't real. I don't want to shock you, but it's more of, okay, buddy, it's real. Admiral Akbar 134. Oh, bad news, bud. If you watched him, you would know that he's so bad at acting and telling jokes. And this right here is one badly executed joke. You're giving this fool too much credit. Oh my fucking God. It's a trap? I guess so. Wait about Joe Rogan. Please tell me this is bait. You guys made it as a goal stream to find a source. Clip from yesterday. He comes back speaking his mocking voice, referencing it today. Yes, there it is. Wow. I bet so many people fell for it. You see it right in the comment section.
This is why we don't scroll down Reddit, by the way.
I really think this is a new masterpiece.
They're literally
I
going
think this is a new masterpiece.
back and forth arguing over
This is great. We haven't had one like this. Yeah, this is great. Are these the Reddit intellectuals I hear so much about? Yes, of course, right? Isn't this Asmon's brand of humor? Yes, correct. Two types of dumb people: those who don't know Arabic numerals and those who can't tell Asmon's cruelly joking, and those who pretend Asmon is not joking.
I'm one of those two types of dumb people, and I will admit it, because I didn't know the numbers we used were Arabic. But once I figured that out, the rest, it's just, I've been out of school for like almost 10 years now, so like, what the hell, right? Am I really gonna, that's the most important thing to remember, is that the numbers came from Arabic? I don't know. Maybe the fact that I remember the numbers and how they work with each other, maybe that's a bit more important. I do have that in my brain.
Oh my god. Joking, the get out of jail card.
Not a lot of other people do, is my point.
Is the get out of jail for free card for idiots. I don't know. He's a dipshit. Bad social cue pickup in comments. There are some pretty harsh comments here by Gulp. People think he's being serious. Wow.
By the way, I didn't say this at the beginning of the stream. We're going to try to go to 11:30. There's a good chance by 10:30 we have to cut it and then that's what it is. But we'll try to go for as long as we can.
As long as full no, yeah, this is... And how many updates does this have? 2,000 updates in less than an hour.
That's a lot.
This might have just surpassed the soda and water one. Honestly, I think that I'm making a mistake by looking at it right now, because I'm worried that by me doing this, it will negatively affect the spread of this clip.
I'm thinking the same thing.
I do think it probably, like, this will actually negatively affect it, because like now if I'm talking about people like, he did it on purpose, right? So yeah. It'll explode. Don't tell anybody I was joking, okay? Don't tell anybody. Be like, bro, I used to be an Asmongold viewer, and then I saw him say this, and I don't know if I can watch him anymore. Like, I don't know. Like, this is just, this one might be too much for me. Like, only an hour ago? Yeah, exactly. Farm it, delete the VOD. Yeah, I have to delete the VOD after this, of course. And, wow. I really don't know what to say, but that's what's happened.
That's funny, though.
My numerals eat bacon? Yeah, exactly. And, wow, the stats are off now? I guess so. But I think this is it will definitely continue to, it will spread for a lot of dumb people. Like, if I pull up this, let me read it. Look up what dude, nobody even thinks it's a joke. Is this satire? Every single person is saying that it's real.
Jesus.
Algebra is an Arab word?
Jesus. To be fair.
Oh my. This is deeper than I thought.
For like, if not almost 2 years now, I think.
This is getting bad, guys.
So I get it.
Yeah, this is really bad. Sort by controversial. Nobody is even, this can't be real. Of course. No way.
It's not.
Oh my god. And there's a guy that posts a picture of a crusader. Oh no. I feel bad for New York at this point. Guys. Sometimes I genuinely impress myself. I really do. Sometimes I genuinely really impress myself. This is great. Wow.
Alright, so that's the bulk of this, right? I don't think we need to watch the rest of this. He's just gonna bask in it more. How stupid everyone else is. Maybe point to some other examples of how he's rage baited people. Oh, XQC. Let's see what XQC has to say. You did not. I'll be right back. You guys ready for this?
Here we go. Fran Mendami is expected to require all New York elementary school students to learn Arabic numerals?
You guys, aren't Arabic numerals what we use? Is that the standard? Yeah,
Yeah.
we use. We use Arabic numerals.
This is happening faster than I thought. Oh my god.
Oh my, there's no fucking shot. You just said that. It's a skit. It's gotta be a skit. It's a skit, no? No, we don't use Roman. No, we use brother.
No.
The number system. The number
No.
system we use is Arabic.
No. No.
The
No.
system,
Yo, excuse you for the
No.
it absolutely is. Are you chilling? The Arabic numerals.
No.
are set-
No.
To be fair, I did the same fucking thing. I had to Google it real quick. But like, it took me less time. He's got chat, right? I mean, he's gonna figure it out, right? Stop laughing, guys. But he's gonna figure it
Not
out.
on Wikipedia.
I know.
And
but
symbols. 0,
Oh.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
Oh,
7,
God.
and 9.
I think the fact that it's taken him this long, even just like a couple minutes, that's giving Asmin all the energy he needs right now. This is top tier. This is top tier. I'm not gonna lie.
Wow.
I used
We
to
just
pray for
learned
times
the
like
1
this.
degrees. We're back in fucking 0th grade. Like, you cannot make this up.
Fran Mendami is. Oh man. Oh, it could be fake news. Yes. Oh man, that is really impressive, man. It really is. You skipped an important video. I don't know if I did or not. Yes. Wow. You 100%.
So here's my question: was this guy who posted the post doing it ironically, satirically, unironically? That's my question. That's where I'm confused. Anyway, we got the bulk of that. That's hilarious. That's interesting, maybe. But not today. What was the other thing? This. I feel like we're probably only gonna get at max another hour. So we'll try some of this. We'll try to skim through it a little bit. And then I have one video that I prepared for today that we still haven't gotten
Trump
around to yet.
administration transfers education programs to other agencies in dismantling push.
Education programs. Is this Department of Education?
The White House announces
Yep.
it's shutting down the Department of Education.
He's gonna say yes. He's gonna say that line again. I've been praying for times like these. Real quick, I don't know. The logical argument is that the Department of Education is supposed to improve education for the youth. And if the youth have been doing worse in education lately, especially when compared to other countries where we once may have been doing better, that it's not been doing its job. And I think the middle ground compromise for this topic for both sides to agree on is restructure the Department of Education, not completely abolish it. But, you know, I want to think about the ship of Theseus for a second. Take all the people out of the Department of Education, but it's not the same Department of Education, obviously. Is that the point? Yes, maybe, possibly, because we want it to potentially be better. No guarantee, but the idea is that it would be. Is completely taking it apart and then maybe instilling a new program the same thing in a manner of sense. Now the question is it gonna put something forward in place of the Department of Education to regulate the education? Or is it gonna be more of like a state by state basis? Like and you know, as someone who doesn't really know the statistics on how well students do either way and in which ways they, you know, prosper more, I think just given the argument that where we once were doing better, we're not as doing better, does imply some sort of lowering in quality. And I'm not completely opposed to uh, abolishing it because it just seems barbaric because you're cutting a program that has the intent of being good, but it is from the opposite perspective a drain on resources, a drain on money. So why would we put money into something that isn't working as well when we could divert it to something else? I think it's barbaric. I think I would have preferred a restructuring, like fire a lot of people and try to reinstall it like the way, and people are gonna like this example, but the way Elon did X Twitter, like it or not, that was efficient. And businesses have been modeling a lot of what they've been doing in terms of restructuring after that. So, I mean, there's something to say about productivity and bloat and all that good stuff. So I'm not totally against the thought that that kind of bloat existed in the DOE and some of it should be cut to make it more efficient. I just don't know if full on wipe the slate clean was the first strong move to do, but I'm not the president, so I don't know. We'll just watch and see.
Oh, man. Oh, boy. Yep. Thank God. Thank God. Yes, and by the way, anybody who's mad about this, kids are retarded.
Not right, not wrong. They're definitely not as smart as they used to be. Personal opinion, prove me wrong, please.
They're fucking retarded. So, where's all this money going? Where are we getting, so we're investing all this money into the Department of Education, and the kids are fucking dumb. So, I say shut it down. Shut it down. It's obviously not working. So just get rid of it. Yeah, no more department. Yeah, why is this a W? I don't understand. It is basically, it's not working. That's the reason why it's a W. In my opinion, now what would I do? If I was Trump, what would I do? I would completely reform the Department of Education. I would get rid of all the No Child Left Behind laws. I'd let tons of kids fail out of high school, and I'd allow the communities to effectively create an underclass so we can use people for batteries in 10 years.
Hold up. I'm 100% on board with everything up until the human batteries part. I'm still on the fence about that one. I need to see more evidence one way or the other first before I can. But yes, reform the DOE first. I think actually Asmund is smart for saying that. I actually thought he was gonna say start with just breaking the whole thing down, abolishing. He's happy that it's broad strokes over letting it bleed resources and all that. That's how he's been consistent, and I understand that. So I'm glad he at least would rather reform it. But it's also, I agree, it's stupid to put money into it if it's not working out.
That's clearly what I would do. Unfortunately, I'm not the president, so I can't do that. So that's really what I would. I just get rid of them, right? And I'd have systems where kids can I would have a way to remove kids from school and then put them into other trade skills and other types of labor things, right? That's what I would really do, because I think that would be better for them too. I'm trying to help them out. And
as long as it's not forced, as long as it's a decision that the child and family have to make. Incentives to early apprenticeship programs for plumbing and electrician work, you can do that when you're 16, 17, because most places require you to be at least 16 to work anyway. And you can be a journeyman. There's nothing wrong with it as long as you're under the right mentor who's teaching you proper safety and stuff like that. And I think in most places it's illegal to operate heavy machinery if you're under the age of 18, but a lot of jobs don't require you. a lot of skilled trade jobs don't necessarily require to use heavy machinery. Maybe some hand tools here and there, power tools, but nothing like a huge table saw or anything like that that would require, more intensive safety training. So I can see it. I can see incentive-based programs that are optional, just not like, forced labor programs. If we're trying to like take, I don't want to see a program where we decide we take the lowest percentage of students and we just remove them from the school system against their will and put them into labor. That's, I think, a slippery slope, but I don't even think he's arguing that, and I would never put those words in his mouth to say that that's what he is arguing. It's just I'm putting that at the forefront of the conversation as a potential problem that I see for myself that some people might want to argue, I guess.
So it's like you can't. There's a thing that people believe that's a lie, that you can just teach somebody to be a chemical engineer. No, you can't. No, you can't. If you went to a working class public high school, you know that's not true. It's not. There are some people who were born to turn big rocks into little rocks. That is their destiny.
It's not a good truth, but it's a truth. I'm not going to say it's a universal truth. It's definitely a genetic, biological truth to an extent. There's data that proves that genes can transfer like intelligence, IQ, and typically a lower IQ parenthood will more often than not breed a lower intelligence offspring. It's just the way nature works.
Who are we to challenge nature? Send them to the coal mines. Send them to the I don't know, at the quarry. Have them, go get coal, oil fields for them.
Just not kids. I don't like. We're not sending kids to the coal mines. This isn't Frostpunk. The children do not yearn for the mines. I don't think any child yearns for the mines. Incentive-based work program. We always need electricians and plumbers, man. Why does it have to be big rocks into little rocks? You don't have to be an A+ student to read an electrical diagram. C+ for sure. Like, understanding of English and numbers, but come on, man. The coal mines, really?
Yes, exactly. And so we don't need to. This is so wrong. You think that it's wrong, but it's actually right. Forcing every single adult to go through Algebra 2 is a waste of tax money. It is. They're never going to learn it. They're always going to cheat. They're just going to use AI to get the answer. They're never going to use it. They're going to forget it 5 years after they graduate. This is for 95% of students. I'd say probably 99, actually. But let's be generous and say 95. Are we really investing our money the most efficient way by having 95% of students be learning something that they will instantly forget and never use?
Post in the comments right now on the VOD if you feel like you learned something in public school or even college, but definitely in public school, because that's where this conversation is, that you are not able to apply to your real life, that you have never used it outside of school. And if anyone posts on this video, it's gonna be yes. It's gonna be, that was me. Not, no, I use everything I learned in school on a daily basis in my everyday life, unless you're a teacher. Like, come on. And even then, you're not using everything. You're only using the subject matter of the subject that you're teaching.
No, it's just simply not a good way to do it. California spends $100 billion on their education and they're still ranked 38th in the country. Yeah, fucking retarded. So more money is not the solution. The solution is is removing stupid kids from schools. And by the way, anybody who thinks that I'm wrong, I have a very simple question that will immediately make you realize that I am not.
If he asks what I just asked, I'm gonna be, well, I mean, it's the only logical question to ask, so, but I'll be a little Vindicated.
If you removed the bottom 5% of dumb, annoying, misbehaving, problematic kids in your school, what percentage of the problems in your school would have gone away?
I don't want to admit that he's right, but he is right. 100%. To answer the question seriously, like at least 80%, 85%. Because there are a number of students that just randomly get into trouble, right? But a lot of the problems were caused by like specific names. Like I bet you if you were to try to remember who was the troublemaker in your school, if it wasn't you, you can picture a name and a face, if not at least a handful of them, right? I know I can. I went to school with some troublemakers, and some were worse than others. And damn. I mean, he's not wrong.
The bottom 5%.
He's not 100% wrong.
I'll look at them, every single one, right? Almost all of them, right? Exactly. Why is it that we allow the 95% to be terrorized and damaged by that 5%? Why do we do that? Is that really the right decision? Is that the good decision? Is that the fair decision? How is it fair that 95% of people need to be handicapped, set back, had problems, and having to deal with this bullshit just for the best interest of 5% of people that will probably contribute nothing to society in the long run?
I vividly remember failing at least one essay. Getting a failing grade on at least one homework essay assignment, maybe even two, because they were assigned to me because of that bottom 5% that was being too rowdy in class. And the assignment was given to us as a form of disciplinary measure. And I just stood against it because I was a decent student. I was like, I'm not the one being disruptive in class. I'm not the one causing the problems. So why should I have to pay for the consequences? And it's a team-based thing. And if one falls, they all fall. And I never understood that and never thought it was right. So I'm like at least halfway on board with what he's saying right now.
No retard left behind? Yes, exactly. Weak men and feminine empathy? Exactly. It's embarrassing. Embarrassing. Yep, send them out to the coal mines. Like, I would have a thing where basically this is elementary school, this is middle school, this is high school, okay? So, okay, so after you graduate high school or elementary school, if you're really dumb, you get a...
You're grabbing him as early as let me hear him out, but he's grabbing him as early as elementary school. That's, well, to be fair, I can also think of a couple of bad ones from elementary school of what I can remember, so continue, good sir.
Different education program that is working towards mining. Now you're going to learn how to turn big rocks into little rocks. Which rocks need to be turned into little rocks and how. So wouldn't your grades put you into 5%? Yeah, I just would have gotten into 6%. Yeah, I would have just gotten better grades. Yeah, it's simple. And yeah, so now you break rocks. And then so that's what happens. Now they could maybe come back in if they're smart and they want to get their shit together. Maybe they could go back to middle school later on. But generally, that's where they're going to go. But if you're smart, you go to middle school. Now, whenever you graduate middle school, are you going to go for the high school or are you going to become a farmer? You're going to be doing agriculture. Go for yeah, so now you break rocks. And then so that's what happens. Now they could maybe come and yeah, so would have gotten into 6%. Yeah, I would have just gotten better grades. Yeah, it's simple. And yeah, so now you break rocks. And then so that's what happens. Now they could maybe come back in if they're smart and they want.
He's really making child minors. That's insane.
They get their shit together. Maybe they could go back to middle school later on. But generally, that's where they're going to go.
I'm going to chalk this up to over-exaggeration.
But if you're smart, you go to middle school. Now, whenever you graduate middle school, are you going to go for the high school, or are you going to become a farmer? You're going to be doing agriculture stuff.
Farmer first, then miner. Come on, you gotta build some muscle on them before you send them into the coal mines.
That's what you do instead. And then inside of high school, are you going to go to college, or are you going to go to a trade? So really, training people for a job that exists is better than think about what we're doing here, right? Let's actually think about this in a genuine, real way. Are we really doing anybody any favors by force-feeding them this education that they will never use, while at the same time we could have been using that same time to be able to educate them in something that they could use to take care of themselves? Are we really helping this person by making them memorize when the Civil War happened if they can't even do something that can generate a living for themselves? Are we really helping them? Is this really something that's beneficial for them? The answer to me is no. It's not. It's not beneficial. It's not even close. You're clueless? Everybody says I'm crazy. Everybody says you keep getting pulled up.
Before he gets into that, I want to say he's not crazy. He's just a little bit extreme in how he portrays it. Like this flowchart, I mean, I get the premise, but I'm not sending someone who should have been in middle school to a coal mine. That's obvious, right? And he's kind of being like rage baiting in terms of when he says stuff like that. My whole point is, there's some merit to a system where you can incentivize training for trades early on in like public schools instead of prioritizing that every student needs to be an academic and try to go to college, because it's obviously not going to work for everybody. And there was something to be said about in America some odd years ago where manufacturing took precedence over education jobs, and maybe that's not as prevalent in today's society. But if everybody who was a plumber suddenly became an astronaut, we'd be screwed on plumbing, right? So we still need plumbers, we still need garbage men, we still need all this other stuff. So there's something to be said about the merit for like inducing these systems early on in people, but he just has to phrase this a little better if he's gonna convince people. I don't think he's trying to convince people, but there's some merit is my only point.
Getting pulled up. Go ahead. So you want to put dumbass high schoolers in our food industry? No thanks. Oh, no thanks? Go to McDonald's and see who's over there. So what about this is wrong? You're not thinking long-term. The system that you're saying has happened in Iran, and it backfired with rich people who pay for grades in school, became idiot doctors and the best engineer, and become simple mechanics. Well, rich people who pay for grades in school. You're not thinking long-term. The system that you're saying has happened in Iran, and it backfired with rich people who pay for grades in school, became idiot doctors and the best engineer, and become simple mechanics.
When did he say anything about paying for grades?
Well, how does that even make sense? So that doesn't mean that dumb people can't get good grades. I mean, Iran, what the fuck? I don't know what happened in Iran. Iran's a totally different country. So yeah, you can't make decisions based off of what happened in Iran. Like, what do you mean? It's a completely different culture. It's a different place. It's a different, like, environment. Everything's different. So yeah. Uh-oh. Didn't we do the exact same thing that the kids that had dyslexia in the past, though, declare them retards because they had issues with reading? Not necessarily. I mean, obviously, you've got to figure out why somebody's retarded. But, like...
And in the same way that you can't compare the school system in Iran to the school system in America, you also can't compare how we treat the mentally ill today than the way we did some odd years ago, whenever years ago, because we've made a lot of advancements in learning about mental illness, and especially how it affects children with developmental issues learning in school. So you can't really apply that logic. It's kind of a moot point, because while what we used to do definitely doesn't work, or didn't work as well, we've definitely made strides in at least trying to even out the playing field in that regard. So it's like, that's a bad faith argument.
If somebody's getting bad grades constantly, why are they in school? Why are they in school? What's the reason? And so only dumb people can get good grades with efforts? Exactly. And so, yeah, it's really just that simple, man. But I don't know what else to say. They force people into long studies, and now you have a gazillion art majors, saturated job market. Yeah, so do we have any sort of argument from here? School is a way to gauge people's skillfulness? Exactly. And the gauge has decided that you're going to the mines. That's right. 100%. It's that simple. It's that simple. Anybody who's been to a public school knows what I'm saying is true. Anybody who's been there knows it's true. And yeah, now he's going to the shadow realm. It's obvious. It's obvious. Some people are just born with less talent points than others. There are some people who are born to be retards. That's it. They're never going to be anything more than a retard. 2025 politics headlines. Trump does not want to execute members of... Oh. Oh, come on, man. What? Guys, I thought he was going to be a dictator. We got scammed. Congress should vote on it, yes. You know what he said? Only a fool tells a man what he's going to do before he does it. And I thought to myself, you know, like, maybe we had a real one in the White House whenever we had those Iran bombings. Whenever Trump came out and said it already happened. And I said, okay, all right, maybe we got a real one in here. He was a psychopath? Exactly, that's what I want.
Alright, I think we've got the bulk of that message. I don't think he's going to be talking about the education system much anymore. And while I would have definitely loved to get into this next topic, we're out of time for this week. So I want to thank you all for joining me. I think next week we'll try maybe an hour earlier, just to get in a bit more. And we'll see how that works out going into the future. So, prep for, what are we doing? Vampire the Masquerade, 6:30 a.m. Eastern Time next Friday. We'll see how well we can get that. I know it's a few minutes late today, so me saying I'll go earlier is up in the air, but we'll try it. And thank you all for joining me this week if you did.